friends. Welcome to the Creative Impact Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Caldwell, and I'm so happy you're here. Each episode, I take some time to chat with fellow artists about life, faith, and the impact of the arts. It is such a gift to be able to be here with Keith and Kathy Thibodeaux today, and you all have been such I would say, pioneers in the world of Christian dance, and especially here in America, but also globally around the world. So thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel.
Yes. So just to give our listeners, if they don't happen to know you, although I imagine many probably recognize your name, wanted to give them a little bit of background on you guys and then allow you to share and introduce yourselves as well. So Keith is the executive director of Ballet Magnificat. And then Kathy, you're the founder and artistic director of Ballet Magnificat. This is a Christian ballet company that started, was it in 1993? Is that right?
86.
86. Okay. That's amazing. 1986. So been around, I guess, let's see, trying to do some quick math here.
Was it got 37, I think?
37. That's incredible.
So way before you were born, we started.
Yeah, at least a few years. So that's amazing. Just love seeing the longevity of the company. And it's really fun seeing y'all's journey together as well. So Kathy, I know you have a big background in, professional ballet and training in that world, a lot of recognitions and your dancing and choreography. And then Keith kind of coming in from sort of the acting and music side. So most probably well known as Little Ricky on I Love Lucy back when the show was airing. And then also being part of David and the Giants. So
Yeah, the Christian band. We were a secular rock band first, then a Christian band.
That's so cool.
David and the Giants, yeah.
David and the Giants. So it'll be fun to talk. And I know you were also involved in other television and just music industry. So it's going to be fun to hear that journey and kind of how you all came together. But I would love to give you a moment just to introduce yourselves, maybe share a little bit about your family and and then we'll dive deeper into your journey.
Well, thank you for having us. This is a treat for us to talk about the goodness of the Lord. He's been so wonderful in our lives and done so much. And we do just give him all the glory for what he's done and what he's doing now and what he's going to do. I'm 67, pushing 67.
That's important to know our age.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing because just seeing the longevity in your dance career is very inspiring, I think, for all of us dancers.
Praise the Lord. It's all because of him. Yeah, I grew up here in Jackson, Mississippi. Wasn't born here. I was born in Memphis, Tennessee, but moved to Jackson when I was 3. Oldest of 4 girls, and started dancing when I was very young. My mom had always wanted to take ballet. She never was able to. So she said, I'm going to get my daughters in. So she took us down to the local dance studio. And after a year, my other sisters quit. But I loved it. I loved it from the very beginning. I knew that, I want to dance when I get older. I was very blessed also to have wonderful teachers in the beginning. I had a married couple that had danced with American Ballet Theater. And so they were my first teachers. And so they kind of instilled a love for dance and just a great foundation.
That helps definitely to start off strong,
Yes. Yeah. I'm very thankful for that here in Jackson, Mississippi. Yeah, I'm very thankful for that. I say during my teenage years, dancing, I guess you could say, it was an idol in my life for sure. It was the God of my life. Even though I'd kind of grown up going to church here, the church on every corner here in the South, and everybody goes to church and you say you're a Christian, but Jesus was definitely not the Lord of my life. I believed in him, but he just wasn't the center of my life. And dancing was. I thought dancing was going to make me happy. It was going to be my life, but all it did was lead me down a road of just not fulfillment. And it wasn't until I met Jesus that I knew what life was all about and what my dancing, why God had given me the gift of dance. And,
Right. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah.
and Keith that led me to the Lord. I met him when I was 19.
Mhm.
19.
Oh, wow. That's
And
so
I was
great.
dancing professionally and met him. He was a musician. And he'll share his testimony, but had a great story of how the Lord saved him. And he started sharing with me right away, Jesus. And of course, I said, at first, I'm okay,
Mm-hmm. Like, I'm good. I grew up, in church, and yeah.
Uh-huh. It was several years later. We've got quite a story. I don't know how. I guess we have time to share.
Yeah, we
right?
have time. We could share, maybe let Keith share kind of your background up to that point, and then we could go from kind of when you guys started.
When you got
moving forward together.
Okay, well, I'm a musician first in my life. That was the first thing I did. I started playing the drums when I was 2 years old in Louisiana.
Wow.
And began to play on trash cans. And then finally my dad got me a set, and then I started playing like a real drum set. And I was just a little bitty boy, and I'd play for like high schools and Kiwanis Club meetings. And then this guy named Horace Height came into town, and he had a big band and a big show across the nation. And it was a television show called the Horace Height Swift Premium Hour, which nobody probably remembers that out there. But he was a pretty famous guy. And when he came to town, I won the talent contest, which got me on the show. And then I did one night stands with him and ended up in California. And then from California, ended up with the I Love Lucy show.
Wow, yeah.
I joined the cast as Little Ricky on the show, and was part of that sitcom for 4 years, the last 4 years of the show, until it ended when Lucy and Desi were divorced. And then when they got divorced, I was out of a job at the age of 9 years old, and I went on to the Andy Griffith show, and I played Johnny Paul, Opie's best friend, on about 13 episodes.
Okay.
Then my mom and dad separated and divorced, and our family moved from California to Louisiana. I started playing in bands, started drinking, smoking cigarettes when I was like 16 years old. I left California when I was 16, left show business behind, and continued in drumming. And so I joined a band called David and the Giants and played rock and roll. They were a secular rock and roll band at the time. And we went through all the sex, drugs, and rock and roll stuff. I ended up on drugs with my friends and really got into LSD and things like that, and mescaline and pot, and even shot up heroin in my arm several times during my drug using days. But God had mercy on me, and I cried out to him one night in Laurel, Mississippi. I was on my waterbed, and I said, Lord, at that point, my life was in shambles. I mean, I was at the end of my life. I was suicidal. I was chronically depressed. I was hearing voices in my head, and I just couldn't take life in general anymore. And I said, Lord, if you're real, save me out of this mess that I made in my life. And a couple of weeks later, my mom had received the baptism of the Holy Spirit. She came to the Lord, and she knew the Lord, and she invited me to a meeting there. And I was saved in 1974, way back then. And at the age of 74, so I was like 24 years old, something like that. But it doesn't matter. I mean, God came into my life, removed the crazy stuff in my life. The Bible began to be a treasure that I treasured in my life. And I went back to the band, the rock and roll band, and witnessed to them about Jesus. And they, of course, thought I flipped out on another drug, and I was just out of it. But they said, you'll be okay in a couple of weeks. You get back to the old Keith. But I just kept talking about Jesus. And then finally, I ended up leaving the band and then going back for a while to Louisiana. And in the meantime, the band became Christians. Wow. And it was a little bit by the seeds that I planted for David of David and the Giants that he came to the Lord. And so that was kind of interesting. And then we began playing as a Christian band in 1979.
Okay.
And started, it was kind of pioneering Christian band. And then started playing in the 80s as a Christian rock band and became quite well known. Had, different labels, ABC Word, CBS, Priority, Benson Company, and different big labels in Nashville. Touring all over the United States. We played in Jamaica. We played in England. We were there in front of punk rockers, and they were saved. The punk rockers were saved. It's a whole story about how that came to pass, but I don't want to spend too much time talking about this part of the life that we led. But it's really been a journey, that God has taken us, and we're still playing with David and the Giants. I'm still playing with David and the Giants. Not we're. There's only one key. There's only one drummer here. Not we. Not in the plural. Kathy's not playing with us. But
that's fun that you guys are still
groupie though.
She is our groupie though.
Oh yeah, I bet over the years. And so when you were 19, Kathy, was that when you all first met? And
when I met is Keith and the band were playing here in Jackson, and my best friend was a relative of David, and she said, I want to take you out, meet these guys. They're playing at a supper club. And so she introduced me to the band, and Keith says right away he had love at first sight, but it wasn't. It took a little bit longer than that, but we started dating and seeing each other. And then 3 months later, he asked me to marry him, and I was 19. He was a little bit older, and I was ballet dancer. He was a drummer in a rock band. It's like, this is not going to work. But he had just come to know the Lord a couple years earlier, and that's when he was talking to me about Jesus. But he said, you know what? Let's just pray. Let's ask the Lord whether we're supposed to get married or not. He's got a plan. He's got a plan. Yeah. And so he had a little paraphrase Bible back in the 70s. It was called the Living Bible. It was paraphrased. And he said, what I want you to do is take the Bible out, close your eyes, open it up, and just point. And wherever your finger lands, we'll take it as God's answer, whether we're supposed to get married or not. And
crazy.
It was crazy. But he said a short little prayer. But I got the Bible, closed my eyes, opened it up, pointed, and he said, okay, what does it say? And my finger had landed in the book of Ruth. It's where Ruth was speaking. And she was saying, it is I, Ruth, make me your wife according to God's holy laws.
Whoa.
And so that's right where my finger landed. We couldn't have gotten more clear
For sure.
To get married. So actually we eloped that night. It's
definitely an adventure.
We keep thinking if our daughter did that, it would oh my gosh, but we did. And nobody thought that it would last. But here we are, 47, pushing 50 years of marriage.
47.
That's incredible. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's such a fun story, such a cool, God using it and where he's brought you today. So what was the journey like once you guys got married and trying to navigate, a professional musician, professional ballet dancer, how did the lives kind of merge at that point?
When we first got married, we moved to California, and I was going to start a band there with Desi Arnaz Jr., who was Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz's son. Mm-hmm. And I didn't work out too well because he had an acting career at that time. And so we stayed with my uncle who lives in California, and went on from there. Went to Six Flags one day in California, in LA, and saw this band called, what was it, Starbuck?
Mm-hmm.
So that moved us back to, I got into a band called Starbuck, which had a big song called Moonlight Feels Right. And then we moved back to Atlanta, Georgia. I was fired in 2 weeks from that band. And once I was fired, Kathy was crying because we just got married, just newlyweds. And I'd taken her across the country, and we didn't know what we were doing,
Yeah.
I told her, Rachel, that this is the best thing that could have happened to us. And I just knew that God had something, you know. So we moved back to Mississippi, and I went in, we started living at her mom's house, and stayed there for a while. I went back to college and started playing in jazz bands. All the while, she was a ballet dancer here in town. She was the principal dancer at Ballet Mississippi.
Yeah.
So we kind of led that life for a while of, you know, me kind of going to college, me playing around town, jazz bands, she with ballet until.
And then you got a call from David to
Oh, yeah. Then I got a call from David of the Giants asking me to join the Christian David and the Giants. So they had all become Christians, like I said, after I left. And then I said, okay, I felt like that was God's will. So I always wanted to play for the Lord. And so I said, I would have to leave Kathy and go on the road. And she was pregnant with our daughter, Tara. Okay. And, but I knew I'd have to make some sacrifices. But I knew from the word that he leaves wife, houses, homes for the kingdom of God, you know, for Jesus and the kingdom of God. He'll be returned many more times over. So I know God, you know, it was a sacrifice, but it was a good thing. So I went on the road, and I missed a lot of things, you know, with our daughter and Kathy. But we also had times when she would come on the road, and Tara would too, as a little girl, and follow us around playing big festivals around the U.S. And then I had a band, and that was the last band I had. It was called Lively Stones. And that band sort of was the nexus for me leaving music for a while and basically saying, you know, God has called me to be a servant to what my wife was doing. And I kind of had to leave my aspirations and musical aspirations behind and do something that I wasn't really accustomed to. But I said, whatever, Lord. The Lord wanted me to leave and join Ballet Magnificat. So that's what I did. Okay. I heard that very, very clearly. Yeah. And so I started out, and we were just.
Yeah, you know, it was actually, my life was changed at a David and the Giants concert. I had heard the band, the secular band, but when Keith rejoined them, I had never heard them as a Christian band. Yeah. And I remember they were playing at a church not far from here, and I went in, and it was something that I never experienced before. I just walked in, and I saw just people, the freedom and the joy, you know, that I had never experienced in church. And so at the end of their concert, they gave an altar call, and I said, Lord, I need you. And Keith had been talking to me about Jesus, you know, for a while. But it was that night that I just finally said, Lord, I need you. I surrender, and whatever you want me to do. And I was dancing professionally. And then all of a sudden people were saying, well, after I came to know Jesus as my Lord, people were telling me to give up dancing.
Well, the Christians.
Yeah, people were saying, because back in the 80s, was that 80? No, that was 70.
79. 78.
79.
No, way back.
It was like, you never heard of anybody dancing for Jesus or, you know, Christian.
Right. Yeah. The concept wasn't really there for people. Right.
Right. And so it was like, we were just praying, you know, now that I know, and we know where the gifts come from, I didn't feel like the Lord was, you know, I wasn't supposed to bury the talent, the gift. And, you know, so I feel like we felt like God had a purpose. So for the next, actually.
What we saw in the Bible where it said to praise his name with the dance and music.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So he was always encouraging me to dance for the Lord, but it was like, well, how? You know, and we just didn't know how, because we didn't see anybody doing it or whatever. So he kept praying for me, and about 7 years later, we just had peace. It was time for me to just step away from the ballet company that I was with.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, we had some prophetic words that helped that, and that said that she was going to be a pioneer. Kathy was going to be a pioneer in dance, and we didn't know. We kept getting these words, about that, and so that just began to grow in Kathy, and then finally she left.
so left, and of course I was I was 29, and I'd done the international ballet competition.
Yes.
And people said, "You're giving up your career. What are you doing?" And then we started talking about a Christian company, and people said, "What are you thinking? You'll never get dancers. You'll never get support. Whoever heard of such a thing?" But it made the papers here that I was leaving the company, because I've been with them a long time.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a shock to people. But it made the papers, and the next day, Dr. Newton Wilson, he was president of Belhaven College at the time.
Okay.
1986.
Mm-hmm.
He called and he said, "Kathy, whatever we can do to help you get started, we want to give you office space, studio space, whatever you need, because we feel like this is from the Lord." And right away, these other businesses in town started calling and saying, "Whatever we can do to help you get started." Well, there wasn't a company. There was nothing.
Yeah.
There were no dancers. There was just
like vision, basically.
that God had placed in our heart. And we were just, I don't know, God, I guess, just gave us such childlike faith that it was like, if he said it, he's going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to worry about it. He's going to take care of it. And we just had peace of knowing. But we didn't know if I was quitting dancing for a while. We didn't know what was going to happen, because we didn't really have a plan or anything. But
right.
It happened so soon. And then it's just amazing how I knew a guy who was a Christian, and called him, and we said, "Do you know any Christian dancers?" And we got in touch with a lady. She knew one Christian dancer from California, and we talked to her, and we told her what we were trying to do here. And she said, "I'm coming. This is what I've been praying for." And we said, "Well, do you know any Christian dancers?" And she said, "Well, I know one that lives in New York." We called her. She said, I'm coming. This is what I've been praying for." They didn't know us. We didn't know. No. And they just moved to Jackson.
That's amazing.
In faith. And we started just a handful of dancers. And of course, this was before computers and cell phones.
True.
Nothing. And we started getting yellow pages, finding churches. We just started sending out flyers. And I think there were about 4 or 5 of us, and we started getting little invitations, go to different churches. And Keith and I had a little minivan at the time, so we had our little minivan. We had our home stereo system that we took. Yeah. We didn't have much, but we were just a little group, but we were so excited to see what God was going to do. Yeah. We knew that he had something, and then gradually we added more dancers, and here we are 37 years later, when people said it would never work, but God, I mean,
yeah, but God, exactly.
His grace. And we've grown, and we've got a trainee school and a training program now. God's allowed us to go into like 50 countries. That's sharing the gospel. And all over the country, and we stand amazed. We just amazed every day at the Lord's His grace. Yeah, mercy.
For sure. Thinking back over these years, since those early days, just being a small group, and to what it's grown to today, what have been maybe some of the most impactful moments as you look back?
Well, I mean, I thought that when Kathy won the silver medal in the IBC, that was such an impactful moment for her and all of us, and Ballet Magnificat, because I felt like that was the beginning of Ballet Magnificat. She had chosen a Christian song to dance to in the contemporary requirement, and there were communist judges there, and they didn't want her to do a Christian dance, the people that were supporting Kathy, because they thought it would be she'd be judged against that.
Mm.
And so for her to step out in faith and to be bold and to share her faith through that, that was the most impactful beginning. It was like the springboard for Ballet Magnificat. And then from that point on, God used that and used Kathy, and the recognition of that medal and her position in ballet to really get the ballet going and get the people and to choreograph ballets, all these things that she had to begin to do, you know?
Right. That makes sense. And is that a painting or a picture of you behind you guys?
That is her picture right there.
That's amazing. I love that. I know it's only audio, so those who are listening can't see it, but it's this beautiful image from the International Ballet Competition, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's so cool. Yes. And what did that feel like for you, Kathy, when, people are saying, "Oh, you shouldn't use a Christian song," and
Yeah.
what was kind of going through your mind at that point?
Oh, that was so long ago. I don't really remember what exactly was going on in my mind, but it was just, they had wanted me to be in the competition, and I kind of said, well, I will, but I'd love to share a piece where I can share my faith, in Jesus. And of course, it was 3 rounds. Like you have to do, so I had to do like Don Q and Corsair, Pod, Don Q Pod. And then my last piece was We Shall Behold Him by Sandy Patty, which was a big song back then in 82, just come out. And it was just, like you said, it was just being able to stand on that stage and pray that I could honor the Lord through the gifts that He's, given. Mm-hmm. It was just amazing.
And just with all the politics that are in those kinds of things, with different countries and different dance companies and different things like that, for her to win a silver medal was really from Mississippi. It's like very, very,
that's
very
incredible.
startling.
That is it's just a cool way that you can definitely see God utilizing that to expand not only Ballet Magnificat, but also just His glory across the whole ballet industry, in the ballet world internationally. So
I think one of the things that Ballet Magnificat brought was excellence, in Christian dance. And people, like she said, nobody heard of that. But the fact that she was recognized in the secular ballet world helped when we were trying to find churches that would accept us to come and do something there. It was like, well, and then she had that kind of qualification, that it wasn't just fly-by-night people coming out there and just doing whatever,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of like a bit of a stamp of approval, kind of. Yeah. That's great. Or something that they could recognize, like, oh, okay, this is someone who knows what they're talking about, and they're going to bring excellence.
That's impressive. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Any other sort of pivotal moments along the way with the company or the school even?
When we got our school, we got out from Bellhaven's wings and then started a school and our company, and getting this building that we're in right now was really monumental, and it's about 11,000 square feet, almost 12,000.
Wow.
And 4 studios, and just paid for. We don't believe in debt, so everything is just basically paid for, and those kinds of things. Touring and going to Israel was another impactful moment, and you can share that.
Yeah, we've been to Israel. What, 6? The company has 6 or 6 times, maybe. Yeah, and we were just there in May, and we had been invited for Holocaust Remembrance Week.
Yeah,
we do a ballet entitled The Hiding Place, and it's based on the life of Corrie ten Boom.
Yes, so powerful.
Yes, it's a beautiful story, and we were invited to perform that there in Israel during that week, and the sponsors brought us into like 6 different cities, I think, beautiful auditoriums where they would bus in Holocaust survivors or families of Holocaust survivors. Wow. So there were some there who had been children in the concentration camps and who were old now, but it was packed. They were packed out every time, and we didn't really know because there were Jewish audiences. It was mostly Jewish audiences, and we're a Christian ballet from the U.S. coming to tell them a Christian story. But the reception, we couldn't have prayed for a better reception. I mean, it was amazing. And we had different dignitaries from each city, like mayors and different people would come up after the program on stage and talk about what was just seen. And, and then we were able to talk about the reason that Corrie ten Boom did this was because she loved them because of the love of Jesus, of Jesus. She could love them. Wow. So we were able to talk about Jesus to this. And the sponsors had gotten books, Corrie ten Boom's book, Hiding Place, in
Jerusalem.
Yeah. And
that's incredible.
We gave them out after the performance. And the people were just grabbing for the books. They wanted to read her story. So it was just, God did some amazing. That was every time we go to Israel, God does some amazing things.
Yeah.
And then the company went to Kosovo after Israel, and it was mostly Muslim audiences, and they did the same thing, and the audiences just loved it. So it was just God using dance to kind of, I don't know, to tell the story that they could accept. I don't know. It's just the Lord, how it was accepted,
Yeah. So, that makes me think about just, you all have, like you said, been, I think you said over 50 countries. Is that right?
Uh-huh.
Wow. And just the international impact that Ballet Magnificat's been able to have. And in all of those travels, and you also have a company, an international company as well, right? Or branch of Ballet Magnificat.
Yes, we'd love for you to join it.
It'd be so fun.
Oh, it's great.
It's a great place.
It's in Brazil.
That's right. I was like trying to remember what country. Yes, so in Brazil, that's incredible.
A school training program and a company in Brazil. It started 7 years ago.
Yeah.
That's a miracle in itself, how that happened, and how we're there and still there.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so
cool. We're just moving into new buildings there, to new studios.
Okay.
As we speak. So it's like 1,000 square feet bigger than our studios here in Jackson.
Whoa, that's amazing.
So,
and apparently it's going to be the largest dance facility in Curitiba, the city, which has over 3 million people, and probably the state. It's a beautiful facility. We're just God is from the Lord. So.
And what's interesting about that too, that people don't know about, Bolshoi Ballet is located in Russia, but they also have one not far from where we have our ballet.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's the only other Bolshoi school. It's huge. We visited there, and it's like amazing place. But
that's cool.
We are still the biggest in the metro area of Curitiba and probably the state of Paraná.
That's really neat. Yeah. Well, just with all of those different experiences, you've already touched on it in those stories, which I think is incredible. But any other thoughts on how you've seen dance make an impact in people's lives for the kingdom across cultures?
Yeah. Well, here's one for the king. Well, across cultures, we went to China, and Korea, Philippines, Singapore. Mm-hmm. All those were like totally in different cultures, for sure.
Right.
And we made an impact. I mean, it had its own stories. Each one had its own stories. But I remember one in Greenville, South Carolina. We did a performance one time, and it was this Ballet Kathy choreograph called Freedom. And there were two ladies that went to it separately. And these ladies knew each other, but they had an offense against one another. Oh. And they really didn't like each other, and something happened, and so they were both there in different seats and all that, and they met each other. They ran into each other in the lobby, and one of them just fell on her after they saw the ballet. One of them fell on her knees and asked forgiveness to the other one.
Whoa.
And they told that story, and it was like just watching that ballet.
Yeah.
It was like the Holy Spirit just moved on their heart and changed the direction of their lives.
Wow. Yeah, you just never know how God's going to use our offering, and especially in the arts, and that people can have an encounter with him through even watching a performance,
Yes.
It's amazing.
That is so amazing.
I remember one time we were in Czech Republic, I think Prague or something, and afterwards a girl came up and broken English, and she said, I used to think that God, it was a fairy tale about God. And she said, but now I know that he's real. And so
that's beautiful.
Yeah, just hearing stories like that, Yeah, because we've had the privilege of praying with many people after our programs, because we do offer a time of, prayer after we finish, and to see God move.
So yes, and the company performs, from big, huge mega churches to small churches to schools to outside events and everything in between. As you probably know, being in Dance-A-Dam.
Yes. Yeah, kind of a similar, probably just variety of settings, you find yourself in. So, yeah.
Right. But it's just been amazing how God's provided, and just how that's a miracle, I mean, who gets to do this? I mean, we have about 30 something employees, 39 employees, staff and dancers that are on full-time salary doing, and we don't have any really, outside arts funding or anything like that to do it.
Yeah. Because
of our faith. There's not a lot of that going on. So it's all the Lord. It's all us just getting out there and hitting the road and doing it,
Right. Exactly. And that actually makes me think about just over these years, you guys being in leadership with the company and also the school, seeing it grow. I'm just curious, are there any key lessons that you've learned along the way in leadership? Because I know a lot of people listening probably are either already leaders or will one day, be leading a group. So
that's a good question. We don't really, there's no like formulas for doing things, We just really felt like, whatever happens around here, we just, we put it to the Lord, we put it to Jesus, we put it before the Holy Spirit, and he leads us and guides us. And we don't always get it right of what we do and what decisions are made and how we lead and whatnot. But the Lord has just covered our tracks.
Yeah.
He has covered our back. And we're just blessed. We have a great company. They're on the road right now touring, and we have all our trainees here, and they've just started this new season. And so it's exciting to have them here, and exciting to have our new School of the Arts, a director over our School of the Arts, which is the lower school. So,
yeah.
I mean, we don't know, other than the fact that there's so many different things about, about leadership, but it's like, I guess being humble and learning to be a servant, too.
Yeah. That's
and
it.
not afraid to do small things, instead of just the big things,
Yes. Anything you want to add to that, Kathy?
Well, it's definitely easier for me to be a follower than a leader. For me, I never ever wanted to be a leader, so it makes me really dependent on Jesus for sure. Much easier for me to follow. I'd rather have somebody lead me than.
I understand. That's probably more my personality as well.
Yeah, I know.
But see, I wasn't really a leader before I came into ballet, and because I was like a musician, just kind of like whatever,
Right.
I wasn't a leader as such, but I think when I learned to be a servant first, that's how you become a leader.
Yes.
You first start. You don't start out way on top,
Right.
You start well, you work your way up. And that goes for anybody here. that they show themselves, in a humble, wherever they are, and they show themselves. You have a good attitude, you love the Lord, you have a good attitude, you work hard, and that's going to be noticed.
Right.
That's going to be, and then who the ones are the leaders here. You know those people, and they just rise to the top, and then they have to be a leader.
Makes sense.
He's just brought amazing people. Our staff is wonderful.
Yeah.
And so
unbelievable staff.
Yeah. We take a lot of counsel from them. They're always praying for us. We try to foster a family. We're a family here. We're not us and then them. It's like we're all together in this Ballet Magnificat family, and we're working for the same, purpose and goal. And it's a blessing. I mean, every morning we gather together as when the company's here or not, and staff and trainees, and spend the first, 45 minutes every day thanking the Lord and seeking us, worshiping together, and just good. Trying to foster that unity in the Lord, so we're blessed, we're blessed to be able to come to work and be surrounded by all these young people. Help keep us a little young.
Yeah, there you go. And I love the idea of, it really does take a team, and just having that staff around you guys. And I would love, as we wrap up, one question I like to ask is there something on your heart you'd like to share with other artists right now? So just a little parting word of encouragement or wisdom that you would like to share. Be great.
I would say don't put yourself in a box, artistically or job-wise, or however you want to look at it. Don't just say I can only do this, Yeah. But if you begin to do something, do it with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. Love the Lord first with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength.
That's good. How about you, Kathy?
And with God, all things are possible. I mean, and there's nothing too hard for Him.
That's right.
So if He puts a dream in your heart, vision, if it's of Him, He's going to bring it to pass. And to, He tells us we don't have to be anxious or to worry, but to just rest in Him. So knowing that He's sovereign and He's good, and His plan, He'll bring it to fulfillment in your life.
It's so good.
And we've seen that happen, in ours.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. And that'll be such an encouragement for everyone that's listening, and for myself. Just for fun, I love to ask, what is one of your favorite things right now? So this could be literally anything, but something that's one of your favorite things at the moment.
I love to watch an old Turner classic movie, 1940s.
1950s, 40s.
1940. I love just to watch an old movie.
I love that. That's so fun.
And we love riding bikes too, and walking.
And what I've taken up lately is crawling on the floor. I'm just no, I'm just kidding. But some people, that's the thing going on right now. Crawling on your floor.
Okay.
To get strength. Yeah,
that's
awesome.
Some sort of core strength and everything. That's fun. That's fun. I love that. Well, I would love to let people know how they can connect with you and with Ballet Magnificat. And I will also link to the website in the show notes. But if you just want to share the best way to connect.
The best way to connect is just go to our website and or our Facebook or Instagram, any one of our things, and just go. We've got information on there how to get in touch, our numbers and emails and all that stuff's there. Yeah, and we'd love to have you here if you're interested in furthering your dance and continuing on in a Christian dance atmosphere and mission. Then we'd love to have you, and you can get all that information on the website and all that stuff.
Sounds great. Well, thank you both so much for taking the time today, and just for all the ways that you've impacted so many lives and continue to just be faithful in your work. And thank you for the way that you've sort of, really pioneered that path for dancers like myself who have come through and been able to be maybe one step further down the road, or a few steps really further down the road, because you guys said, hey, we're going to say yes to God, even when it seems a little bit like there's nothing like this out there. So thank you. And I just pray blessings over you both and appreciate you being here.
No,
God bless you, Rachel. Thank you.
Thank you.
You can find all the links, full show notes, and additional resources on our website, creativeimpactpodcast.com. If you're interested in supporting the show, some great ways to do that are to share it with a friend, to rate and review wherever you're listening. And then also, if you're interested in giving financially, you can check out our Patreon community, where you get bonus content each month and have a special part in helping make this podcast possible. You can access our Patreon community on the link at our website or by going to creativeimpactpodcast.com/PATREON. Thank you all so much for listening to the Creative Impact Podcast. The music for the show was produced by Michael Cash. Until next time, remember that you were designed to create. You were made to inspire. Continue living with purpose and making an impact. I'll see you next time, friends.